Hello, welcome to the Cold Press Truth Podcast. This is your host, Charlie Wetlaufer, and I've got on the line Katelin Slifer. Is that how you say your last name?
You got it.
Slifer? All right, got it. Welcome. It's been a while. I think we last talked, I checked Instagram, I think it was about a year ago on IG Live.
Sounds right.
Kind of right when we were coming out of the pandemic. And we went live. You took us inside your juice bar, JuiceCo LG in Los Gatos, California.
Yep, that's right.
And gave us a tour. If anyone wants to see that, I'll post a link in the show notes below. But why don't we start off for people that don't know who you are? Maybe give us a quick intro. Tell us a little bit about your background and how you got into juicing.
Yeah. Thanks first and foremost for having me. Excited to be here and excited that we can make this work, especially going into New Year. Which January has started off with a bang. So my name, as you said, Katelin Slifer. We're based in the Bay Area, California. So if you're not familiar with Los Gatos specifically, we're about positioned really snug between San Francisco and Santa Cruz, Monterey County. So about an hour south of San Francisco, about an hour north of Monterey. Heart of Silicon Valley. We service a lot of corporations around here and a lot of personnel working in tech. So we're in a great spot. My husband and I have lived here in this area for over 10 years. Our families really nestled at this point in the area. Previous to juicing, I spent upwards of 10 years in Silicon Valley, not as much in tech, but more so on working for some family foundations on like an asset management, corporate construction, interior design. I got my degree in business, so I was putting that application to use. Loved what I did, hit kind of a plateau in terms of growth of that company, but loved the work that I was doing. And to be honest, I'd been traveling so much and even to like suburbs of DC and going to Australia and suburbs of Australia and seeing these small juice companies, and was a bit astounded that we didn't have that here in Silicon Valley, which was, an area that was, could be heavily serviced from a convenience standpoint, and an area where, constituents really knew the value of health and investing in yourself. So my husband and I both played college sports. We've always been super active. Living that healthy lifestyle has always been a huge part of what we've done, personally, but then growing professionally and kind of looking at what was next, really started to identify a need not only in our community, but kind of the greater Silicon Valley area. So ended up consulting with a lot of mentors and a lot of people to take that leap. But after my work in Silicon Valley, I kind of saw myself shifting and to do more and more exploration of that opportunity of opening a juice bar. That's kind of how we came about. So ended up quitting my job and put both feet in. My husband is still works in design and still full on that side, but is a huge partner as well. I just manage the main like operations from a day-to-day standpoint.
And the first location, was that the same location you're in now?
Our first brick and mortar, but we didn't open that way. We opened we bootstrapped the whole thing and we still to this day don't have investors. So it's been 100% us, which, we can get into the details later because we've explored the investment route many of times. We decided to go a bit more, really small mom and pop. We dumped savings into this as a, huge personal passion. And we kind of joked, okay, we bought a Norwalk as the first juicer because there was nothing like the M1 or anything like that, or like an X1 Mini in existence at the time. So we bought a Norwalk and started testing recipes and decided let's start small, farmers markets, direct to consumer, pop-up shops, all those things to, do really a great like grassroots movement and take that next step. So that's how we started for 2 years, from 2015 to 2017. We did that out of a commissary kitchen.
Okay. So you found someone to let you use their kitchen. Was it professional commissary kitchen that you rented?
It was. Yeah, we never
Mm-hmm.
did. The cottage license in our area didn't apply to juice. So plus at the gate, once we launched, there was nothing like us south of San Francisco at the time. We were
Mm-hmm.
the first one, which is still crazy because it was still 2015. This wasn't
Wow.
that
Yeah.
long ago. And, people immediately latched on from farmers markets saying we've wanted, juice companies, that we have a huge farmers market scene here in the Bay Area. So we quickly were in like 3 farmers markets, in the first couple of months. And that's when I bought an X1 because obviously the Norwalk was not going to service. Um, and we just,
Yeah. Back then, the X1 was the smallest machine we had. So
yep.
actually, a huge amount of our customers in 2015, 2016 were going from Norwalks all the way up to the X1.
And that's
Kind
what
of
we
a
did.
crazy jump. Yeah, I'm sure you remember that
Mhm.
decision.
Yeah, but
By
it
the way,
was
did you
the
hear that?
best decision.
Yeah. Did you hear that Norwalk went out of business
I
officially?
did. I did.
Pretty sad.
Yeah, it is sad.
Okay, so you went from Norwalk, making juice for farmers markets, and then jumped into X1.
Yeah, we didn't last that long. I'd say we did about 2 production days on the Norwalk, and we were in the kitchen till like 3 a.m.
Mm,
And we were like, this is not sustaining. This cannot be, cost effective. There's got to be a better way. And obviously knew about Good Nature, but I thought, the X1 was such a far reach for the size that we were at. But then we started, you guys have such an amazing customer service team. So I don't think Ari was on at that point, but you were personally responding to, any
mm.
blog comments on the website and your guys' page there. And um, you guys had some great resources to be able to justify the cost savings.
Mm. Nice.
Yeah.
So you buy the X1, you're still running in commissary then?
Yeah, so because we chose not to get, investor funding for the company, everything when you're bootstrapping and saving and self-funding is, work, save, and then put it back into the company and reinvest. So for us, and our business plan and strategy was to do that, to get to a brick and mortar, place. And once that actually came a little earlier than we had planned, but it was a good enough, situation we couldn't pass up. So with all that being said, since it happened a little bit earlier, we had the funds to, secure our first month rent and the TIs that went along with the retail space, but it was a former retail space and not a commercial kitchen. So we didn't have the funds at that point to actually get the permits and buy the equipment that we needed for the kitchen. And our commissary was just under a mile. It was like 0.8 miles away from the retail space.
Nice.
So for I think it was about a year, which was a really crazy time, that we made juice out of the commissary and we transported it to the retail space.
A mile down the road.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yep.
Um, so yeah, the logistics of that, you're making juice on the X1. Were you making juice every day or every couple days, or how's that working?
So pre the retail store, we were making juice. Always we made juice on Fridays, prior to the weekend for our farmers markets. Then when we launched like a Thursday farmers market, we started making juice like on a Wednesday production. So we would stagger and then also offer home delivery alongside those production days. When we opened retail, that was new. That was new to me. I have worked in restaurants and, food industry along my career path, but had never owned, especially on the juice side, with such a highly perishable product, a retail space. So I'd say one of the mistakes that we made was being so concerned with having like fresh juice every day on the shelf for the customer.
Mm-hmm.
And something that I always tell, newer companies that are launching up, like, don't strategize better, like have better. That was one thing I think I blew through certain cash flow. I wasn't smart enough. I was so concerned about that like fresh concept. And going back, that would be something I would have done differently out the gate about three months in, I quickly realized, after we're very analytical and we look at numbers and reports all day long. And so when I quickly saw the need to shift, we shifted. And now we've optimized so much from not only like customer education, staggering products on certain days, minimizing our menu to really like the core necessities from a selling standpoint. We only juice right now on Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday.
Okay. So
Yeah.
still 4 days out of the week.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
And you sell through multiple sales channels. You have your retail, you do some wholesale with local businesses.
Mm-hmm.
Last time we talked, you're doing that. And then I took a look at your website. You also take orders online.
Yep.
So what is the process like of aggregating all the orders and making sure you're planning the right amounts?
Yeah, we make it a goal. So anything online, whether it's through a third party delivery, in our area, DoorDash, Grubhub, and kind of Postmates, but it's mostly DoorDash and Grubhub. Those are the biggest channels. So those are all, pulling from our retail shelves. But anything from our e-commerce site, we have scheduled delivery days so that we can kind of make those to order, if you will. Unless a customer really wants something next day and we do have it in retail, of course, we'll accommodate, but we really try to keep that as, kind of a made to order production so we can manage that a lot better. But the e-commerce side is hard and definitely something coming this year that we're looking to refine even further because there's such opportunity there. And the post-pandemic life, that's really proven to be a huge part I think we can capitalize on even more. But for retail, our goal is to be under 10% waste out of the shop. And usually we look to sell out of an item is usually 90% of the time what we're doing.
Okay. So, but actually planning, okay, so when you make juice on Tuesday, you're making juice for the pre-ordered online stuff, right? And then what? They pick that up Wednesday? Like if they order on Monday, when's their pickup day? Wednesday?
Usually Wednesday. Like I said, we'll accommodate if somebody needs it sooner. We pre-advertise, like for cleanses, we always say, the best time to maximize on shelf life and all of that is to do a start of like a Wednesday or a Saturday. And those are also like our wholesale delivery days. Those are days we set our delivery days on our website for. So we really, Wednesdays and Saturdays are big delivery days to all of those channels.
And then the wholesale orders, are those mainly recurring? Like, what those amounts are every week?
Yeah, we only have one partner that we work with in a really unique capacity, but everyone that it's our very first, it's like a local coffee shop that has supported us, gave us like top shelf visibility, goes through a lot of product. They're like a quarter mile, they're around the corner from us, believed in us from the beginning. They've been in town for 40 years. So they're a huge iconic space in town. So I have kind of a special, setup with her. But everybody else ever since, let's see, been like 3 years now, we only offer kind of like pre-orders. So if somebody wants to work with us, number one, we're super intentional about who we bring on in that space. It's such a taboo thing in our industry. So we're super intentional. Education's huge. Care of the product is huge. We have to be able to like deliver ourselves, manage, what's happening to the product, test their refrigerators. We're really, really involved in that process. But yeah, I only, work with clients on that wholesale capacity that pre-order from us. And most of them will do like a reoccurring order. And that's just weekly that we fulfill for them.
Okay. And then the retail sales, you're estimating based on averages?
Yeah, we do kind of a two-prong approach. We obviously capitalize on, we use Square as our point of sale. They're very data forward, very easy to, access reports and check in. But then we also have a manual system that I realize is a little outdated, but because our kitchen is behind our retail space, it works well. So when kitchen brings up product for retail, we already have like on our production sheets, everything that's been specified. And then we from there, take that, put it into production, and the kitchen team's communicating heavily with retail, and then that goes into our inventory. And then anything that expires, we can notate through the inventory app in Square, but we also do like a manual recording because we like to see the data of like, did we sell out earlier than expected? So should we increase numbers? What is our holidays to consider? Did we, how much overage did we have? We try not to have, like I said, we tried at 10% our goal. And we really actually aim to sell out because of how we have the shelf life staggered. So like Monday production juices sell by, we do a 4-day sell by to Friday. And then we're making those same exact round of juices coming Thursday so that we can have kind of a piggyback onto the next expiration. And same thing for Tuesday, Friday.
Nice.
Yeah. It also builds consistency with customers because then they start like celery juice customers it's like borderline crack for them. And they're like, no, I have to have it and I have to stock up for, like minimum 4 days. So they'll know we're just super transparent. We make celery juice on Thursday and Monday, Thursday. And if you want to, come in and stock up, get it then. If not, we have what we have after that. So that helps too to communicate.
Yeah. And speaking of communicating with customers,
yeah.
how has your customer education program or policy or the way you think about educating your customers when they walk in the door, how has that formed over the years and what does that look like now?
Yeah, I think something that's beautiful about being a small business, and as an owner, I'm so involved. I try to be like involved where it makes sense. And I think having that touch point with customers and people know who I am. But then also I'm really diligent about like my retail manager is an extension of me. And then the rest of the retail staff is a continued extension of me. And I tell people like, when our guests walk in the doors, it's like, I think of it as them in my house, in my living room, because this is kind of like a second home to me. And I want to treat them. I want them to feel comfortable. And there's so much education. We have quick elevator pitches that, if you can't communicate anything else, communicate our key differentiators. Nobody in the South Bay in Silicon Valley is doing what we're doing in a full capacity, like 100% organic. We're completely raw and unpasteurized, and we use glass bottles. Nobody's doing that, like 3 trifecta. So, what's that elevator pitch? How can we communicate the freshness? And then how do we communicate why that's better for overall health and why, they should be making this investment versus going to some of our competitors or even, to the grocery store and getting a juice. So,
and
a lot.
Firsthand what that's like because you still have a press juicery across the street?
Yeah, stone's throw. I could throw a stone into their front door. Yeah.
Have you done that?
I have not. I try to embrace it, right? Because at the end of the day, it's hard, and I won't lie and say that I've had very stressful moments over that. But I've tried to mature as an owner as well. And also, we all have the same end goal. So at the end of the day, if someone's entry point may be a press juicery freeze or maybe, some kind of product that way, at the end of the day, it's trying to shift them and understand why they should actually be shopping more local, investing in their health, even more from, getting raw juice that is 100% organic. And, we're totally different than them from my standpoint.
Yeah. And the other positive way you can look at it is that every dollar they spend on marketing is really helping the juicing industry as a whole. Like
Absolutely.
when Starbucks acquired Evolution Fresh, and then all of a sudden there's these little tents on all the Starbucks tables describing what cold pressed juice is. That was great for the industry.
Absolutely. Yep.
So let's talk about the pandemic a bit.
Yeah.
Last time we talked, I know that you had a lot of drop off, but some of the business was coming back. Then I think you're getting busier. How is from the beginning, call it like March 2020 when all the lockdowns happened, what does that look like through the last couple of years?
Gosh, it has been very up and down. Overall, I think, positive from a couple of standpoints. Number one, people are continuing to want to invest in their health. And I think they're seeing value. I mean, something that we promote is, regardless of the pandemic, cold and flu season, investing in your health is the best thing that you can do. And it's not just juice, it's holistically, right? It's like getting sleep, it's getting vitamin D by just being outside, it's moving your body. It's all those things that are, critical. So initially that was something we were trying to communicate, but we did see a drop off. But it's grown quite a bit, and I've been really impressed with the community. We were fortunate to be considered an essential business, so we never had to close. That was something at the beginning, we were definitely prepared for, not knowing what the government was going to decide and what health department was going to decide. But we were very fortunate from the get-go. However, it was that fine line of like, okay, being open, but then people being so nervous to come, in person. And then being so, apprehensive just to even communicate and transactions and all of those things. So how do we adapt and serve our community in the same way? And then even in a more enhanced way, from there. So we shifted a lot. We, did a little like mini grocery rack inside. We pared our menu down. We had to social distance in a massive capacity. So we stopped making a few recipes and really focused on a couple key things. But then we flowed last summer into a bit of what felt like some normalcy coming out. And we just took that opportunity to kind of take down some of those barriers that the pandemic had started to create and started to look at what was next and what that meant. And it's, I think, for the better. Pre-pandemic, we were so focused on what's the next location? How are we going to grow physically in the business? What are we going to do, for that growth? And how are we going to adapt and all of those things? And the pandemic just slowed everything down on that side because, that just wasn't an option at the time. And there was so much reactive. I like to be a very proactive business owner, and I was so reactive to everything. And so it forced me to slow down and really focus like inward on the business. And now we've seen, we saw I stopped doing farmers markets, which I never thought I'd stop doing. That was like almost 30% of our gross revenue. At that time, we were in, almost 4 farmers markets at that time. So I stopped doing that. Most of the people in wholesale that we were servicing, we were in like 10 locations, maybe 12. I think it went down to like 1 or 2 in the heart of the pandemic. So that shut down like a whole nother side. Retail wasn't as busy for us. And then now the pandemic, everything's shifted. People are loving curbside pickup. They work from home, so they don't mind taking a small drive and going to pick up a smoothie and product.
Yeah.
It's shifted a lot.
I can relate to that for sure.
Yeah.
It's like if I don't on my normal day at work, I don't have to leave the house, so I'm looking for that reason to I'll just go, get a coffee and a smoothie and whatever.
Exactly.
So as far as what you've seen in the market, I know what we saw at Good Nature, we definitely saw a big increase in interest in health and immunity and people thinking about opening juice bars. What have you seen from the juice consumer?
I think the consumer is, they're more interested and also eager to try new things. I think they're looking at, like I said, just investing their health, but in different capacities. And so maybe someone who used to just get like a citrus is now more geared towards green juice and immunity shots. And I think just being more open to, like I said, learning, and they're buying more like packs of things and keeping things stocked at their house. And it's been interesting to watch some of those consumer habits. And like I said, especially from the home delivery, like pickup or DoorDash, the convenience level is definitely there.
So yeah, so that all picked up during the pandemic, and you see that as a forever thing now, convenience and
I think so.
delivery and everything?
I mean,
Yeah.
unless, I don't know, 10 years from now we see a different shift in general, which I'm sure will happen as, the tides change and I'm sure it will. But for now, next handful of years, as this current generation as we're going through all of this, I definitely think paying for convenience at least in the areas that probably more coastal communities or places that have more of that disposable income that they can pay for the convenience, they can afford it. I
Mhm.
mean, yeah, for me personally, I mean, with kids, I will definitely pay a premium for convenience.
Yeah. I'm with you on that.
Yeah.
And have you seen in your area more people interested in juicing than before?
I think so. I also think we've seen more male demographic, which has been always something I wanted to tap into, and we tried different things. And that's been really great to see as
Mm.
well. Um, Overall, just a larger investment into health and trying new things and being open and listening. And so that gives us an opportunity to educate, and that gives our front of house staff, just all the more opportunity to help them understand what we're doing and why we're doing it. And, keep getting them in the door and retention at the end of the day, then retaining those customers that we're getting.
And I know I saw on your Instagram you've been struggling with keeping staff
Mhm.
in your location. I don't know if that's because they were getting COVID or you're having trouble hiring, but what kind of issues have you had with that?
Yeah, I was so surprised. I think, and it really was just this January month. This is probably the hardest that the pandemic has affected our operations since it started in March of 2020. We were able to, our staff has always been so responsible, so like no matter where you sit on the pendulum now at this point, everybody is so understanding of each other and respectful, and has always been really conscientious of what they're doing outside of work and testing when they travel and communicating and all of those precautions. And we've had the good fortune of like being just this small core team and just plugging away. And for whatever reason, our like Bay area in general has gotten hit by the latest Omicron surge, unfortunately. And so it wasn't more so that we were already understaffed a little bit, which has been an issue we have dealt with through the pandemic as a whole, but never something that, you know, just simply allowed us not to make product, which is what we've been in the last 3 weeks.
Mm.
I mean, I just didn't have enough hands. I'd have like we usually run 4 people plus like a constant smoothie maker, a key like shift lead, our QC personnel, our dishwasher, and then like one extra flex person. We kind of run with that core team on production days and usually one other person that floats. And our dishwasher's been there, which has been great. And then we would be down no smoothie maker, one key person to make like juice, and that's it. And so just simply like one person can't wear the hat of 4 jobs. So for whatever reason, yeah, we just got hit, and it was a combination of already being lower staffed and then some of that key personnel to run the juicer who's trained on the X1 to make juice that was either exposed and had to be in quarantine or tested positive themselves. Luckily, nobody's been in like the hospital or super sick, but we've had to obviously follow protocol as long as someone's testing or exposed. It's been really hard. Yeah.
And backing up a little bit to just growing your business in general,
Mm-hmm.
The audience that listens to this podcast are mostly people that own juice bars or are considering opening one.
Mm-hmm.
And how do you think about growth? Let's say you have one location and you think about growing. How do you approach that?
Yeah, I think it's probably different for every, area that you're in. And like I already touched on, pre-pandemic, we were so focused on what's the new or next location. And that was a huge, I mean, we had 3 different, not to say we were going to open 3 locations pre-pandemic, 3 additional, but we had 3 kind of different models that we were looking at in terms of retail spaces. And now at least in our area, I don't see our area and our business model this idea of these like all these brick and mortar shops being a smart investment at this time. And so what we're shifting on in growth is number one, trying to really define what growth looks or what success looks like in that growth. And can it be more simplified and actually a higher return on investment by truly focusing kind of inward on the business and focusing on limiting, getting higher margins, food costs, paying closer attention to food costs. Packaging's gone up in we've seen an insane jump in packaging in 2021 alone. I have to do another price increase just because of that. And focusing on expanding the menu, really honing in on what our customers find value in and how we build profit that way. And that's what now I'm looking at going into this next year. And then how we can get creative in other kind of pop-up capacities or other even like models of this business, going into 2022. So it's going to be it's going to be an interesting time. But I think it forced me to like slow down and really, really assess what that success looked like for me.
So you're focusing more on internal success as opposed to growth and expansion?
Yeah, I mean there will be growth and expansion, but I think it's also realistic. Like we made some decisions as a company, what's as an owner you have to reflect on like what's important to you. And as we looked at different options in, the space, there's so much you can do with, a product like ours, not only juice, but when you kind of go into like organic beverage and food and all of that, like how can you continue to serve your community even in different capacities by maybe not just like replicating this exact same model and opening another juice shop in another area. So for me too, is being realistic of we want to be organic 100%. We want to be raw. We want to make like that's something I'm passionate about. And we want to have glass bottles. That's a really hard model. There's a reason not a lot of people do that. You can't really scale that like other companies have, and that's okay. But I think that's like I said, as being an owner of this company and really reflecting on what's important to us, that those are our core values. That's what I want to stick with. And as a result, it is limiting. But then also I've chosen not to bring investors on for a variety of reasons. And I've chosen, we ended up growing our family during the pandemic, which was not planned, but being realistic that if I don't, have that other set of support, like what, kind of living in that in between and what can we find success in while still serving our community, giving back in the community. And then, giving a bigger impact while it might not be another brick and mortar space. How do we impact the community just differently? So that's been a good self-reflection as well.
That's great. There's a lot of good stuff in there. I took some notes here that I want to dig into a little bit more.
Yeah.
First of all, packaging. Let's talk about your commitment to glass bottles. And so let's start organic raw glass bottles. Why you've committed to that, how you approach that decision.
Yep.
Then we'll go from there.
Yeah, I think from the get-go, if you're going to build a brand and you want to be consistent and you want to charge you have to charge a premium price, the only way you're going to get customer buy-in and customer commitment back to you is if you stay consistent and you stay committed to those things. So organic for me is something, I'm essentially kind of the face of our company. So if I'm not practicing, what I preach on my own, like that's something I personally really, for a variety of reasons, from just having a huge belief in, what we eat in general, healing our bodies. That's something I wanted to fold over into the company because I want to communicate that and the importance of that in not only juice, but in food and everything we eat. So the organic things always, also, if you're, in my personal opinion, if you're going to, juice raw juice, 3-4 pounds of produce into a bottle, that's a lot of potential pesticides that you're consuming if it's not organic, but that's everybody has different thoughts on that. Raw, I mean, you guys have done studies. Ari's shown amazing statistics. We all have seen the, major increase of nutrient load when you're drinking a raw juice, different from pasteurized. So not to say HPP's, bad. It's just a different product. It's great for accessibility. It's great for, expansion. But for me, I really promote our product also for drinking for medicinal uses and healing your body, getting nutrients that you need. And in that case, if you're going to do it from that standpoint, raw, in my opinion, is the only way to go. There's nothing like a raw juice. And the glass bottles, it just kind of really ties in the entire experience. It protects the product. It shows the customer as we educate them, unless you're on some of the cutting edge technology like Solti is doing, with like light, therapy into the bottles. 9 times out of 10, if you're seeing a glass bottle, it's unpasteurized product. It's raw juice. So protecting the product. I'm because food is such a big passion of mine. I'm very big on like experience of when you're enjoying a product. And to me, like glass is just a much more enjoyable way. But then we also get the return out of it and we get the sustainability factor. We've been able, to create a program around our glass bottle returns that has yielded not only retention and bringing customers back in, but then we get to reuse that, that product and increase lifespan of something that otherwise would just be in the landfill.
And we took a look at that on the IG Live.
Mm-hmm.
You showed you have like a bin where people can return their bottles. And then I can't remember. Do you say you do give credit or you don't for bottle returns?
We do. And I don't know if that was something that at that point we had launched, but in the pandemic, so I had done a lot of research on this when we committed to using glass on if we wanted to do some of the companies, there's, a few that I follow and that I track and I really admire that do glass, that do like a bottle deposit up front. And so I looked into that model initially and it just felt so, organic raw juice is so expensive, already slapping another bottle deposit felt like I really like trying to create like a lower entry point from an affordability standpoint. And so I didn't love the bottle deposit initially. So we had kind of a makeshift program that worked for us for a while, but then going into pandemic and needing, number one, I was trying to increase retention so we could really, garner those customers that were coming in and get them to come back. And number two, I needed cleaner bottles back from customers. And so we decided to make a shift on giving a 25-cent return on the glass, on the 16-ounce units. We do 10 cents for our little like 2-ounce shot bottles, but giving, a 25-cent credit, not charging a bottle deposit, but if they bring it back, doesn't have to be, just needs to be rinsed out and free of debris and zero mold, obviously. But they would get us a credit to their same day purchase. So they don't get a future credit. They get, for that same day purchase. So that, that, like I said, builds retention to get them to come back in. And then it also helps incentivize them to take care and clean out their bottles so that it's less work on us when it comes back.
And then you mentioned not taking any investor money.
Yeah.
Maybe you can talk a little bit about opportunities you've had and why you decided not to do it, or maybe you haven't had opportunities. I'm not sure, but just kind of talk through that.
Yeah, we have. I think as most people do in any startup, but I can speak obviously specifically to this industry. You're eager to grow. You're eager to consistently try to scale the business to what you have defined success as. And I think early on for us, as I've already mentioned, that success was like multiple locations and, scaling and growing that way. And the investors that we did, we explored different versions. We explored like crowd, funding that way. We explored, we went into, being in this Silicon Valley, like tech area, we have the good fortune. And like my previous job, I knew a lot of investors and a lot of people that were really interested in the model. Everyone that we met with told us to stop doing organic. I had multiple 2 to 3 investors told us to source produce from overseas, like Asia, that would come frozen or in powder form that I could then, save on obviously food cost and increase margin. And then, you just find that a lot of these people don't, this is such a specified market space that there's just such a lack of education that they don't understand that are, in order for me to like have integrity and stand behind a product and face a customer and sell them, like I wouldn't drink that. I wouldn't drink something that was previously frozen and powder put into, I just didn't feel good about it. And so I don't know if it was a matter of who we were talking to at the time, but none of it felt right, like in my bones. And then we had other opportunities. I can't mention specifics for a variety of reasons, but like a very large franchise, wanted us to kind of buy them out in a local location. That ended up not working out for a variety of reasons, but so we explored a lot of those different models. And I think one thing we always got really great advice on, and I say we because my husband's a co-founder, so we do a lot of that high level stuff together. And a lot of the advice was like, if it just doesn't feel right, it is a lot about like data and numbers, but there's also a feeling that you get. And when you've invested so much in the company, and if it doesn't feel right and you're having to compromise, your core values, then it's just not right. And that's how it felt at the time.
I think one thing that a lot of people need to understand when trying to raise money from investors is that the juice business, I mean, raw cold pressed juice is not a great business to invest in general. Like the dream business is like software where there's zero cost of goods, right? You're just selling like lines of code. Yep. So everything's profit and people pay every month the same amount forever. And then other types of good businesses are like consumer packaged goods companies that sell, whether it's shelf stable beverages or like granola bars or something that very low cost of goods can sit on a shelf for months without going bad. And people might buy those repeatedly all the time. But, raw juice, very high cost of goods.
Yeah.
Like a few dollars of organic produce will go into a juice.
Yep.
It goes bad quickly. It's hard to plan. There's lots of waste. So, of course, if you're raising money from professional investors, they're going to want you to change the business because it's not a great business from the standpoint of how a professional investor likes to invest in things.
Right.
So I think for anyone, if you are raising money, just do it from friends and family or people that are not necessarily professional investors, but maybe wealthy individuals or something that just want to be part of the brand. Because otherwise they'll start asking you to add, freeze dried powders and frozen produce or stuff.
Exactly.
And then, okay, so you had twins in the middle of the pandemic, basically, right?
Yep. Yeah.
And
November 2020, we had twins. Yep.
And you have other children as well, right?
I have a 5-year-old. Yep.
Okay. Yeah. So, and talk about being a founder and business owner while raising family.
Yeah. I'll say none of it was really planned. So I don't recommend, not that it can't be done because I'm doing it, but it's very hard, especially on the female side, because there's so much demand. And I, obviously want to be a very present mother. So I will say though, there is a lot of opportunity for flexibility. There's an opportunity, to be able to balance it. So it's possible, but it's difficult. And I think, having one kid is one thing, but the twins really probably put me right over. I think I found is, finding the ability to separate the two, but also acknowledging the places where you can combine. And what I mean by that is, like when I had my 5-year-old, I actually had him about 6 months after we started selling products, about a year after the company started. And he, I like carried him on the front of me at the farmer's market. It was like we were a very like ma and pa at that phase. Like that was accepted because, you know, it was just me selling at the market and people loved to see, you know, that integration. And I fed him juice all day long. And, you know, it was very transparent. It was real. It was, you know, people were buying product from a family. So that was amazing. That was like, and he has memories of that, and that's super special. And then he helped. I mean, we opened and built out this, you know, brick and mortar space, and he was right by my side in a construction zone. So, um, it's challenging, but I think separate learning to like, but there are certain, you know, meetings or conference calls or situations that it's not appropriate to bring your kids to, and it's not appropriate to have like your child in the back, you know, screaming, although the pandemic brought that to a whole new level. So I think knowing when to combine and show the realness of it and to bring value there, but also separating the two, and then knowing your limitations and, you know, that you really are one person and you can't do everything you might think you can. And that's, I should probably take that advice more than I, I do. But yeah, I think now having the twins, now that I'm back, I took more of a maternity leave than I did with my first, but I only took like 2 months really with the twins. And then I was back at it. But now that I'm in the shop, so many of our customers either have been with us since day one, so they've watched my whole family grow. And so they talk to me and know them by name. And that's, I think, is part of the beauty of it. But I am so removed from that day to day, that they'll see on Instagram or they'll see in other capacities, or our staff will talk about it so much. But they know that a lot of the roots, I think, while the community's trusted us so much, is like we're really allergy friendly because all my kids have allergies. So we're really conscientious of that and offering products. I talk about it all the time. Like I would never sell a product here that I wouldn't feed to my own kids. So there's built trust around that too. That's been really cool to be able to show, you know, that you can have both. But it's really hard. That part is hard.
I like what you said about how the pandemic's kind of forced people to acknowledge that people have families, you know? Like now, if your kid's in the background on a conference call, you don't get all ashamed and embarrassed that,
right.
Oh no, they see I have a child. Right? It's like, because it's so normal now.
It is.
Which I guess is one silver lining of everything.
Definitely.
And then what have you tried to do as a business owner to help your local community?
Yeah, I you know, have a huge heart for not only our community, but kind of expanded into the greater Bay Area. And I have a huge passion for just like I call it like food justice and bringing, you know, healthier products to the community and educating. I think, you know, in our state, we're in California, you know, Gavin Newsom passed a law this year or last year actually, where like all school lunches were free, which is amazing. And it's somewhat controversial, as every single thing is controversial now. But you know, people question free things, so on and so forth. But I think what's exciting about that is like showing access to food and, you know, people that may not have it. But then now we've been able to work, because that's a huge passion of mine and something that I'm trying to invest in both 2021 and then coming this year, is really trying to shed a little bit more light on what other restaurants or like cafes like ourselves can do to give back in a greater way. And working with, so not our like regular donations that we do to the community, and we sponsor a lot of events, but this past year we were able to secure a partnership with a local college. It's called West Valley Community College here, because I was informed of an amazing program that they do with Second Harvest Food Bank, which is our Bay Area's like largest food bank service. And they have weekly donations of food drop-offs. We're helping them. They've just launched this amazing brick and mortar on site at the college called The Roots. And the entire impetus around that is not, so a lot of times the free food is like Doritos and Gatorade and like boxed cereal and stuff like that, which, you know, is not really nourishing food. So they're opening this brick and mortar and trying to partner with, you know, locations like ourselves that can either donate or either educate or bring service to around, you know, healthier eating and eating, more like fruits, vegetables, and more like raw food diet. So we've been able to partner with them and do some cross promotions where we allow like some of their qualified students that are in the program. They can come every Monday and get a free smoothie, no questions asked. But then also helping serve that location on site and stocking them with like organic produce and doing some like education seminars for the students and helping them like when you have a choice of food, what's going to nourish your body. So that's been a really that's like a side passion of mine. And helping, really, I would love like every junior college in our area to adopt something like that. So these students just, they're educated, because there's a lack of education. And if, they know, then they're a lot more apt to make healthier choices.
Have you heard of Apples to Applesauce in Portland? I did like a video with them back in
Oh, you did?
like 2016 and 2017. Yeah, because we donated an X1 to her because she was taking like apples that would be wasted and turning them into like freezy pops.
So cool.
For kids.
Yep.
Yeah, like just freezing the juice and giving out these healthy organic freezy pops. I thought that was a pretty cool concept.
That's so cool. It's a lot. That's a lot of dedication. That's amazing.
Yeah. Cool. And then we've covered a lot, but I would also like to talk. I know you've been very helpful to other juice companies that have reached out to you and asked you questions and things. Are you open to people reaching out? And if so, how can they get a hold of you?
Of course. I think something that's been so amazing, even just this past, once you guys created JuiceCon, and I know, too soon, but once you
yeah, ouch.
right. But really, it's still, I think what's so cool is that, when you started it, what created, although it was a small group that first year, I was able to be there. We were able to, I'll answer your question. This is a long way to answer your question, but I just feel so grateful for what you guys have done for our community. And this is, like you've already said, this is a hard business to start. It's like the money is not in raw organic juice. We juice people are a very unique group, and we're doing this usually out of huge, massive passion. And so when you're first starting up, I had the good fortune of having like a business background, and my partner does as well. And so we had a lot of that foundational work, but some people start this and it's just straight out of passion, and the resources are just impossible. And I think Good Nature created this incredible community and access to these, just whether it's like an ROI calculator, or how do I make this recipe, or how do I make a nut milk? Those like simple things that can change productivity and change, a financial side of your business and certain ROIs is just massively beneficial to some of the small shops starting out. So kudos to you guys when you, like I said, I think carried over from JuiceCon, a lot of us that met each other then. I mean, there's like dozens of people I talk to on a weekly basis just through Instagram that I wouldn't if it wasn't for JuiceCon, and we all share tips here and there. So I'd say, yeah, a huge passion of mine is just to continue to just share, good and bad, stuff I've done that I'd say like, yeah, don't do this. I did it and it was not a good idea, or here's what you should do, or here's what worked for me. I love giving that information, and I love just seeing other people enhancing our industry. And I'd be more than happy to, just whether it's pick brain or small question, whatever it is. You can just direct message us. Our handle on Instagram is @JuiceCoLG. I also am really active on my personal page. So that's just my full name, @Katelin Slifer. I do more like the like nitty gritty behind the scenes stuff on there, like not the pretty stuff. Like a lot of kid visibility and like feeding my kids and like all of that. So that's like a fun journey. That's all the hard stuff. But or you can just email me. It's just Katelin @JuiceCoLG. You can pop all of that if you want, or I can give you more details. But yeah, I'm always open to chat. It's I love to talk about this.
It's awesome. Yeah, I remember the first year we did JuiceCon in Venice Beach there in that little venue. I was so nervous going on stage because I had no idea what the crowd was going to be like.
Mhm.
You know,
Yeah.
like you go to these stuffy conferences where everyone's wearing lanyards and just kind of like,
We were
I
wearing
don't know.
lanyards, but
Yeah, I know, but you know what I mean, though. They're there because the company sent them there, and they have to be there, and they're like racking up their Marriott points and stuff. And they don't really want to be there, but it was exactly the opposite. Everybody was so passionate, and the energy in the room when I said, "Hey, we're all here to help each other out," I was like, "Wow, this is an
it was.
incredible group of people."
I still think
And
about all of
yeah,
that. Yeah.
yeah, and it's made me really sad that we had to cancel 2 years in a row because of COVID. But I mean, we just we thought pushing it from November 2020.
Yeah.
Sorry. Pushing from
2021.
we canceled November 2020.
Mhm.
Then we thought we'll reschedule for November 2021. We're like, well,
Of course.
just in case.
Right.
Like, this seems crazy, but we'll do April 2022.
Right.
And then just as we had to start thinking about selling tickets and committing to these big deposits and stuff, then Omicron started to pick up.
Yeah.
So it's too bad, but we will have another JuiceCon. I promise everybody.
Yeah, it will happen.
As soon as things are actually look like they're, as soon as there's no more variants on the horizon, I think we'll go ahead and plan the next one. But it'd be great to see you again in person and everybody else.
Yeah.
And thank you so much for being helpful to everybody in the community.
Of course.
And getting on and doing stuff like this. Too bad we couldn't do it in person.
I know. Sorry.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's not your fault. It's this crazy time we're in.
Yeah.
And thank you so much for your time.
Of course.
And we'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, Charlie.
Thanks, Katelin. Bye.
Bye.